It's time for the Charlotte FC podcast.
Westwood, rather Vargas, the touch, the finish!
Gol!
The Alba, whipped in, good ball!
Oh!
Christian Kalina, a save to save the season!
Crowd belongs to Charlotte! And Charlotte FC, if the results hold, have clinched its first playoff berth in club history!
Welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenuti. It's another edition of the Charlotte FC podcast. I'm your host, Nick Finelli. Today we have Greg Barkey from Pro Referees, and we're talking video review. So some of the things you'll listen to today is we'll talk about rule changes and the focuses for the referees this year. We'll talk about just how the communications work for VAR, how the camera placement matters and how each stadium is unique, and talking about that. We'll talk about how they've moved the VAR control from Atlanta to Dallas, and they have this new center for all of that stuff. We also get into just the challenges and the impact of VAR on soccer itself. Talk about Greg and his journey as far as coming and growing up in Argentina and his transition from player to referee and some of his moments as a ref. And you'll learn about how he reviews and does a video review each week on the Pro Referee website to highlight some of the things that the video referees are doing. And then just in general, we'll talk a little bit about future of VAR and where that sits and some of the cool things that are going on in that field. So hope you enjoy this. Now here it is. Today, I am very fortunate to have Greg Barkey with me. He is the director of video assistant referees, and we're going to talk about VAR today and some other things. Greg, welcome.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here, Nick.
Thanks. So you've been in this business for a while, with Pro itself, being in charge of assistant referees, and then kind of lately taking on the video aspect of the role. And we were just talking about, you kind of, for Pro as an organization, you all just had your kind of big start of preseason down in Houston. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, it's our biggest meeting of the year, is where we bring in all the referees that are in MLS, and also all the referees that are in NWSL, USL One. We're all brought in for first, some administrative things that have to be taken care of, the normal stuff that whenever you start a year with anybody. And then of course, we go through. We had all day Saturdays, all instructional. So we had instructional classes on dog sew, spa, handball, which is always a classic, penalty area incidences, dissent, something that we're going to work on this year, and we want to have more enforcement of it. So it's something your people that go to the matches are hopefully going to get enforced in a more stringent way. We kind of were giving them guidelines. There's a little bit about some of the new rules coming in of the year. And just how does that really work, from the referee side,
right.
You as a fan or as a viewer of the game might say, well, how does that work? Who's taking track of this and who's taking track of that? So we have to get that all arranged with our officials. Who is the fourth official? Is it the referee? So we take care of all those things where we're in a big group. We can ask the questions and then figure that out. So that's what happened. It was basically everybody came in on, and then kit distribution too. It's always a fun one. Everybody gets their new kit for the year, so we can
some excitement, right?
Yeah, I got my Capelli stuff. That's our sponsor.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about, you had two focus. Of course, there's new rule changes. If you don't mind sharing what's going to be happening with VAR, and then talk about the dissension piece, because I think it might be interesting for people to see, like, referees are going to be focusing on this. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, well, on the VAR part, there's really not like this huge change or anything like that happening. That's not but what we do is we look over the year of the past year, and we do we need to tweak anything? Is our line of intervention too high or too low in certain areas? and where did we miss last year that we need to fix for next year. So we work with our group and we just adjust maybe a little bit. One of the things we're looking at is offside, interfering with an opponent. Is that something we need to adjust a little bit? We had a couple of decisions last year where they were on the border. And so we kind of got the group together and said, look, we don't want to review for this unless it's more impact. We want to see clearly the impact of interfering with the opponent. Then we had some issues with denial of goal toward opportunity. Why are we missing these? Is the referee not in the right position, etc.? So we go through all that part. So for VAR, it's not going to really change much in regard. The only thing we'll see that's coming up, and we're going to work with the announcements like you saw at the Women's World Cup. So we're starting to trial that. We're practicing at our referee camps. So we're getting ready to do that. So we'll see where we are because there's a technical side to that too. You can't just turn on the mic and expect everybody to hear you. It has to go to broadcast, has to go to the stadium. So there's a whole other piece that people don't really realize, that we can't just go out there and say, okay, we're going to start doing announcements because nobody's going to hear us. So we have to get all the technology involved too. So there's a process with that's happening. So that's all behind the scenes. In regard to VAR, there's only nothing that you would notice per se unless you watch it really closely, and then you'll see. But as usual, we're just trying to make sure we have no mistakes and we fix any mistakes on the field. That's our goal, is 100%. Can we ever make it? I don't think so, because when you talk about handball, it gets to be so subjective. At some point, you're just not going to have everybody agreeing on a handball. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Real Madrid game yesterday. So there's always going to be talk about that one. So that's always going to happen. But what we want to do is really have the assurance that the referee is making the best decision he can with whatever tools we have. And so that's really what's happening with VAR, nothing different. With dissent, it's been a point of emphasis for years. And I, as a fan of soccer, I get tired of it sometimes. When you see the constant complaining, a throw-in goes out and maybe the referee points one way and it might actually be the other way. But the dissent for a throw-in sometimes at midfield, it gets to be too much. And this, even when players foul, and it's very obviously a foul, they still seem to have to go turn around and complain to the referee. And I don't think fans like that. And so this is not just pro. Pro is not like being the one that's starting this initiative. This is a worldwide initiative coming from the stuff you've seen in Europe and around the world, where it's getting out of control. And so, but with that, you need if you're going to enforce dissent to a higher degree, you need everybody to get involved, because if one referee is doing it and the other referee is not doing it, well, it's no good. The players don't understand what they can do with one referee or the other. And so we want to make it clear. And so we're coming up to make it clear to the players, when these certain things happen, you're going to get a yellow card. Okay, so we're trying to give them almost like details so that they know it's coming. And usually the problem that happens in every league in the world is that you start the season out with enforcement, right? And then when the yellow card accumulation comes up and all of a sudden a player is suspended, the support just disappears, from the teams, it kind of happens like that, because you get a yellow card in one game, you're still finishing the game. So there's really no instant impact. You're not feeling it immediately. But when you get, I think in MLS, you get that fifth yellow card, and now you got to sit out the game. And you look back, and 4 of those yellow cards were for dissent. You're thinking, wait a second, people start changing. So we're working together. It's not just us by ourselves. We're working with the team. We're working with the teams, the owners, the MLS, competition department. So it's not just pro going out there on their own thing, saying, oh, we're going to force dissent here more than anywhere in the world. No, we're doing it with everybody in the world and with competition to try to clean up the game, because it's really just not a pretty sight. And, of course, it trickles down into your game on the weekend with your youth teams. Right. It trickles down into the amateur level. Yeah. And that looks terrible. I mean, I go to my local little, field down the street here. It's got like 3 fields on a Saturday. And you're seeing some very, very young referees that, of course, are not at the best level, but they're doing their best. And the complaining is sometimes like it goes beyond. And that's why the biggest problem we have is referee retention. They'll quit. Yeah.
Talked with Alex about that too.
They want better referees, but we can't even have a chance to develop these people. So that's the biggest problem. So that's one of the things that's going to happen. I think you're going to see it. We're working with our referees. We're working with our referees to get consistent. So Not just one referee is doing it, but all the referees are doing the same level. So we'll hope to see that happening for this year.
Good. I want to go back to just the VAR with the announcements. Since not everybody speaks the language in which the referees, whether it's here or another country, there's hand signals to show things. Are the hand signals going to happen before the announcement? Is the referee going to go to a certain spot like everybody sees? For instance, like NFL, they kind of go to a spot so everybody can see the referee saying this and everybody can look, because there's always hand signals because you have people that don't know the language and they're going to have to know what the call was.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges we have. For example, if you look at every field in MLS, the monitor for the referee review area is in different locations. Some are behind the goal, some are in midfield. So where does the referee go to stand? So at this point, we're getting them on the field and facing the cameras is really what we're telling them, because in some stadiums they have reverse cameras. Probably most of you don't notice that, but like in New England, for example, the cameras are shooting one way, and in Charlotte they're shooting the other way. So we're getting them to face the camera. We want the referees to feel natural. So saying yellow card, penalty kick, and point to the penalty kick spot, that's still gonna happen. And we want them to use language that makes sense to you, the viewer or the fan, versus what we talk about in the referee world. Like in the referee camp, we'll use all these words like denial of a goal scoring opportunity and all these, we use all these acronyms. Well, we want to get away from that, because if we come out and the referee says, after review, the decision on the field is SPA, people are going to understand what they're talking about, unless you're in the referee community. So it's what or even like, so we're working on language that is understood by the soccer community, put it that way, because there's some things we have to say because that's what the rule book says. So we're working with that. We want the referees to give it. It's not going to be some long announcement. It's going to have three things: the offense, well, what's being changed to, the number of the player involved, and then the reason. There's going to be a reason. So we don't want to say it's penalty kick and we're done. I mean, you can see that by somebody pointing. That's not, the announcement does nothing more. So now we want to give the reason for a handball, the arm was away from the body, something like that will be generally what's going to be said, and it'll be quick. We're not looking to delay the game any longer, and really it's more for understanding in the fan in the stadium and in the broadcast world. The players and the coaches, they pretty much can tell what's happening by just the actions of the referee. They don't need an explanation. But we found that fans and in stadium, they're not sure why the decision was changed. It's hard to see if you're in the stand. So that's the purpose of it.
It's educating.
Yeah,
it's educating everybody on it.
So, and we practiced this about 3-4 years ago. Didn't get permission to do it yet, and now that FIFA has done it at the World Cup, and we've ironed out some of the weird things. Like we do have some referees that English is not their first language, so that's a struggle. When I was at the Women's World Cup down in Australia, and we practiced it every day, and let's say you're from a place where English is not spoken, and all of a sudden we're going to tell you, while you're under major pressure to change a decision and give a penalty kick against a team, and you don't speak this language on a regular basis. So we really worked with the women referees there to just say, look at number, decision, one quick reason. And we, the VAR would help. You'd say, look at the reason is handball extended for the body, etc. So it's going to be interesting. Most of our referees speak English well enough here that it shouldn't be an issue, but it was an issue at the international stage for sure.
Yeah. So let's kind of start from the beginning. People may not know this, and like you said, you were talking about just educating them on what it is. What can VAR be used for? Because a lot of people think, oh, VAR, and then all of a sudden there's like, why aren't they doing that?
Yeah,
that's kind of what can it be used for?
It's evolved a bit, but there's just basically 4 reasons it can be used for. Any penalty kick situation, given or not given. So any penalty kick inside the penalty, even in or out, a foul that's just outside that actually was in, and so any penalty kick, any red card situation. Okay, so a yellow card was given on the field, they'll check to see if it should have been a red card. or there's a hard tackle and nothing's given. It's still, if it's a possible red card, they will look at it. So they look at pretty much every tackle to make sure that they're. So a red card given may only be a yellow card, so it could be downgraded too. So anything in the red card category. So that's including denial of goal scoring opportunity. The other one is all goals, everything to do with the goal. So for a goal, we don't just look at the actual scoring of the goal. We talk about this, called another acronym, the APP, the attacking possession phase. So how the goal happened. So we look at all that. So it can even start in the other half of the field where we look. So usually we, in the general terms, at the change of possession, we start looking from that point up to the goal. So if the change of possession was because of a foul and the referee didn't give it, we can go back and say, look, you missed this foul right before the goal, so the correct restart should be a foul. We can look at anything from that change of possession all the way to the goal. Now, we don't look before that. So if something, even handball or something happened before that, we just call it a missed decision by the referee. But what we're really looking for is anything that actually affected that goal. So anything that maybe put a defender out of place because he was tripped behind the play, and he would have been in a place to defend. In a place to defend. So even though he might not have been actually involved with the goal, he should have been there, but because of a foul. So we can look at anything associated with that goal. And then,
so maybe like a kick that happened and somebody accident, the same team, everybody's onside, but then when this other player touches it, another player who scored is actually in an offside position, but maybe they just nipped it with their head, but that's enough to be offsides, right?
Yes. And so they'll check that. And offside is about 70% of all the goal checks that we do. I mean, the goals, if we're going to get involved, it's probably most likely going to be offside with goals. And we'll have to look sometimes for that little touch that maybe the assistant referee didn't see. And now the player's offside, or maybe it did touch him and the assistant referee thought it did. And now we have a player offside who wasn't. That type of thing. So we look offside as most of them. Just to give you a stat on that, actually for MLS, we only get involved in 2% of the goals. So so very few goals really get returned, like rescinded, So I think they scored like 1,300 goals, whatever. I don't have the number in front of me, but we did the math and we only got involved with 2% of them and either changed them or gave them. Usually we take away goals. It's part of VARs that the goals end up being taken. We do give goals. Last year, I think we gave like 12 goals that were actually given that were out on the field for offside mostly. So it does happen, but we tell the teams, we tell the players, go ahead and celebrate the goal. The likelihood of us getting involved and changing it is very low. And so we want people to celebrate. We want fans to celebrate the goal because usually we're not going to get involved. There's only one more category that gets involved. It's called mistaken identity. So, but that's only amongst the same team. So, for example, the referee shows a yellow card to you for some reason for a foul, right? And the VAR will look at it and realize, well, that wasn't the player who fouled the player. It was the one standing right next to him. And so then they radio down and say, look, we have a case of mistaken identity. The foul was actually committed by number 4, not number 2. And so they'll do a review and change the yellow card from, number 2 to number 4. But they don't change it from one team to another. So that we don't know. We don't get involved with yellow cards in that. We don't get involved with yellow cards in that regard. It can be just a missed yellow card, and sometimes the VAR sits there and goes, "It's a clear yellow card." They can't do anything because it's not a red card.
Right. So how much are all those things that you mentioned kind of automatic in that the video assistant referee is looking at this and then miking down to someone on the field saying, you need to do this. We need to look at this more. We need to pause.
It's automatic. It begins as soon when you think of it, any foul in the field, the VAR will take a second look at it real quick. If it's close to a red, they'll start examining it a little bit closer. But if it's just a foul, they'll just mark down foul by number 2, nothing. Okay. So then you have a goal automatically. Any goal, they're automatically checking back. If it's possibly a goal, they're checking it also, and they might have to delay the game. That's why sometimes you'll see the throw-ins being held up or a goal kick being held up. The most common event, of course, is the penalty kick. And that's because you have a lot of penalty kicks not given, or sometimes when it's given, it's easy. Automatically, they're checking to see if it actually is a foul. So a penalty referee gives a penalty kick. The VAR's already head down, reviewing the different angles, and if they see a foul, they just radio down, say check complete, foul confirmed, penalty kick confirmed. If there's a yellow card confirmed. But if he doesn't give it, that's where the hard one comes in. When they don't give it, let's say possible handball, the ball hits off the arm and goes out for a corner kick. Many times you'll see them delaying the corner kick because that's the VAR. Say, look, I still need a little bit more time to look at this. I still need a little bit more time to look at this from a different angle to see if the arm was away from the body or whatever, whatever consideration it was. So that's the delays you will see sometimes on the field. When you see the referee holding up a corner kick, it's because the VAR is looking real quick to look at that play. And if it is a penalty kick, then they radio down and say, look, I'm recommending a review. I have a handball penalty kick here. And so the referee will go there, and now they can change the decision or not. Usually they change the decision. In MLS, it's about 80% of the time they're going to change the decision because they didn't see the handball. There are times where the referee will stick with their decision because they'll say, look, it's subjective. I was there. I saw the movement. I had the feel for the game there, and it's not right. And of course, then on Monday, as staff people get together and we say yes or no. So it's
right.
You're analyzing all this stuff. In the end, we do make a final decision on everything to let the referees know that this should have been a penalty kick or this wasn't a penalty kick, etc. But that's Monday morning. We all sit around. We have plenty of time, no pressure on us. Because we try to get the reviews done in 2 minutes. Our goal is 2 minutes. That we're completely done. I mean, foul, referee's done, game is restarting. That's our goal because we don't want it to be interrupting the game very often.
So when the communication happens, the VAR folks are in Atlanta, right? You have a central place where they're all watching.
Well,
Is that right?
They were in Atlanta because we are moving to Dallas. We're moving to Dallas, we're to Arlington, Texas. So that'll be for next year. So in the previous years, yes, we've always been in Atlanta. I was in a place near downtown where I had 15 booths with each one dealing with the game during that time. So that's being moved to a new, better location. Just it's a facility, a permanent facility. The one in Atlanta was always meant to be temporary because it was a quick setup. So it wasn't really meant to be a permanent location. So now the permanent location is being built with, walls and all that sort of thing that we have. So it's going to be real nice. And I'm sure that once it's finished and completed, it's on schedule right now to, for our kickoff February 21. So it's all on schedule. So I'm sure that we'll be inviting the media to come take a look at it when it's ready. So
that's cool. Now you talked about things that are automatic. Is there any, or actually, let me reverse back. Talking about the communication. So they're in the Dallas and you have an assigned video assistant referee who's mic'd up with the other 4 referees on site. And so they're able to just say, hey, we need to look at this. Give us a few seconds.
It's a push to talk system. So now where they push a button, it opens a line of communication. So they're hearing them all the time, but they can talk independently in the VOR, the video operations room. They talk amongst themselves. And when they want to contact the referee, they push a button to talk to him. And so that opens up the conversation. And so usually they'll say delay, because they need them to hold on. And sometimes it comes real quickly because a team, the players have gotten smart. It goes out, possible penalty kick. Goal kick is given. If they get that goal kick in play, we can't look at it anymore. So we can only look until the game restarts. Once the game restarts, we're done. So there's only 2 exceptions for that, which is violent conduct. So if somebody, we get a video of somebody, say, spitting at somebody and play is restarted, we can still go back and have the referee look at that. So, and mistaken identity. Whenever we catch the mistake, we can fix it. But if it's a penalty kick, once the game is restarted, we can't go back and look. It's done. And so we have to sometimes quickly delay the goal kick or throw in. And so they'll come in, delay, and the officials, usually the referee knows when it's coming because somebody went down in the penalty area and they decide, no, it's not enough for me or whatever. They know that the VAR is going to look at it and they may have to delay and hold off for a second.
Right. And can anybody from the team or a captain or a manager talk to the refs and ask them to review? Is there any kind of protocol for that, or is it?
No, it's not. We, that was asked, when it first started. Can we have like coaches reviews type thing. No, because if you did, you'd have a coach review every game. You'd have reviews every game. Why not? Look at the NFL. They have reviews every game because the coach is just taking a chance. What are we going to do? Give a yellow card? The punishment. And the thing is, everything's checked already. Yeah, everything's already. So there's no reason for them to tell us, "Oh, go look at that one," because we are looking at it already. So the players will walk in, you look at that. Yeah, and sometimes the check goes really quick. Some penalty kicks are clearly not penalty kicks. Or, for example, everybody's claiming handball, and the VAR can see that it went off like his chest, didn't hit the arm, and they're radioing down check complete right away. And the players are saying, "Hey, have you looked at it? Have you looked at it? Yeah, it's already done. We're moving on already." So yeah, they will always ask. Players tend to go to the referee, "Hey, did you look at that?" And they'll say, "Yeah, it's been looked at," and check it complete. Or they're still looking. Hold on. So you'll see them do that.
Right.
The coaches will, ask the fourth official, "Are they looking at that?" But we don't want a formal, like, the NFL red flag thrown out. All of a sudden, we got to stop the game and look, because good and well.
Right.
End of the game, somebody goes down. Hey, make them look again. Maybe I'll give my chances that something may come from it. So.
Right. And then if it would stop the game too much if they had to announce every time something like that.
Right.
Like the crowd cheered or didn't, some sort of thing, and there's no explanation. Like you said, it went off the chest, but the ref just says move on, and everybody's like, why wasn't that called? And we never find out, but we know it
can be confusing, especially if you don't realize that the VAR is actually checking it, and so some people that are maybe new to the game aren't realizing that whatever happened in the penalty is being looked at, and because the referee says play on, it doesn't mean that we didn't look at it. It just means that there was no infraction, no clear and obvious error, as we say. So that's just something with educating the fans to understand that. And even though sometimes it goes very quickly, it's always, at the moment, with players sticking their hands up in the air asking for something, it looks like, whoa, this has to be something. And the VR will look at it real quick and say, it hit the leg. It didn't even go off the arm. But, the players usually get it. They understand. We had that problem a lot when we first started with VAR. Because they were thinking that, well, why aren't they looking at it? We need to pause the game long enough for them to look at it, or the referee needs to go to the monitor and look at it. They said, well, just go look at it. So, well, if they did that, can you imagine how many times in a game the referee would have to just go over and look at it?
Right.
Because you imagine a regular game, how many times does somebody fall in the penalty area, with contact? It could be fair contact or maybe foul contact, but it happens even a minimum game 4 or 5 times a game. So that'd be 4 or 5 times where we would stop the game. The minimum probably about 2 minutes by the time they looked at it. So you're adding 10 minutes. Right. We already add a lot of time at the end of the games as it is, because we're tracking it. That's one of the jobs. I'm sorry, I should say that. One of the jobs of the AVAR, which is the assistant video assistant referee, is to track the loss of time in the game for injuries and for delays, for substitutions. So they track that time. So that time that they put up for added time is very exact. It's so when we put up 9 minutes, it's because there's been 9 minutes of substitutions or injuries where where the trainers have come out in the field and they treated somebody, and we we'll say look at that was 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So that gets added on to the game. That's why, especially last year, you saw a lot of games that would have 8-9 minutes. With added time, and that's for the fairness of the teams. And also, if you're paying a ticket for a game, you're not there to go watch the player lay on and the doctor go treat a player on the field. You want to see the action. So it's working with MLS. They're trying to get more active playing time in a 90-minute match.
And the new rule with the clock displaying in the stadium, I think, is also going to help people realize how much time is really passed in those.
Yeah, some of the new innovations for this year that could start this year, because we're taking it from the MLS Next. In MLS Next, they've been testing a couple of things, which is like time substitutions. 10 seconds for the player to get off, or substitution doesn't happen. They lose. Sit out a certain amount of time. And then also the idea, which I know bothers every fan, is when your team is losing 1-0. And a guy sits down on the field injured. It's hard for the referees, because what can you do? We're not doctors. We can't say, no, you're not injured. You're faking it. Get off. I know you're wasting time. We can't, because maybe he is injured. But so they're testing
Right.
in MLS Next Pro in the second division. They were testing that if they say sat down for 15 seconds, they automatically must have at least 2 minutes of medical look off the field.
And they have
So
to
they
be pulled on
play
the
short
side.
for 2 minutes, basically. Yeah, they're playing short for 2 minutes at that point. And magically in MLS Next Pro, it disappeared pretty quickly. Because all of a sudden, if you're in added time and your team is, up 1-0 and you sat down and now have to sit out 2 minutes and your team is playing short for the last minutes of the game, it's making a difference. So that
Right.
we're working on that with bringing that to MLS. So that's all been tested before, but there's still some interest, like who tracks it, when the 2 minutes starts. There's, all the administrative part that has to be still ironed out. So that's something we're trying to bring in that we'll work with Pro, working with MLS to improve the game.
So with Apple TV having kind of the same type of cameras and coverage, I'm sure that changed how you all are able to view as video assistant referees, because now you have almost like a standard number of cameras and things that are at each match. Can you talk a little bit
Yes and
about that?
no. I'm
And
not
then
gonna go all the way with you there
okay,
on this one, Nick, because one of the
okay,
issues, every stadium is different, and so the
hmm
camera locations are slightly different. So, and for example, I believe Nashville, the 18-yard camera is not on the 18-yard line. It's about the 25-yard line, just because of the placement
hmm
in the stands. You know how they built the stadium, and so you can imagine that makes a difference for checking the
hmm
top of the penalty area. And so every stadium has a little bit different setups. For example, just a small thing that in Montreal they have a camera behind the goal, right? That's nice and high. Problem with the Montreal, the stands are right there. So if somebody waves a flag in Montreal, it blocks the camera. So we, little issues like that most fans probably never understand, happens to us. And
right,
we actually, they'll radio the stadium, say, hey, is it possible to move that flag to the side?
right,
And so these things happen in every stadium. So every stadium has their little bit of quirk. They all have about the same number of cameras, and I think that's what you're referring to, but they're not all
right.
exactly the same location. I tell you what, as a VAR, there's two cameras that we love. We love the behind the goal cameras because they're opposite of what the referee sees. And so if there's a penalty incident, where a possible handball or a foul, the referee is looking at it from, the field angle. And so he may miss what the camera from behind the goal would see. So we find that really the behind the goal cameras and the high ones and the low ones, even the one that's across the field, are really, really helpful in helping us help the referee get the decision right, because you're seeing opposite what the referee saw on the field. And that's usually why he made the mistake or didn't give a penalty kick. So we love those.
And is that standard
Yeah, pretty much.
behind the goal?
But sometimes they only have one on one side and one on the other side, so they're shooting across. We would love more cameras. You couldn't give me enough cameras, to be honest, if I'm the VAR, because sometimes it's all about the angle. And if we don't have the angle, there have been times, even last year and previous years, where in our hearts we feel, you know what, this player's offside, or this player's it's touched his hand, but we have no evidence to show up, even though we're thinking, man, it's got to have hit it, but I can't find an angle that shows it, because we will not change the decision unless we have evidence to show us wrong. And so there's been times where we're pretty sure something happened, but we just don't have a camera angle, or we don't have evidence. I can think of one specific incident last year, was in Austin. There was a goal line decision about whether the ball crossed the goal or not. And our best camera was the 18. And, the angle, the ball was in the air, which makes it hard, because now if it's on the ground, you can use the line and look at it. And nothing there. So we had no angle. We stayed with the decision on the field, which at that time was no goal. Played on. And we had no evidence. Of course, after the game, there's somebody with their phone that happened to have it, and it was sitting right on the goal line. And so, if we had that angle, sure, we could change the decision. But without the angle, sometimes our hands are tied. And so, you can keep, Nick, if you want to install 15 more cameras per station, I'll take it. So.
Will we see goal line technology coming soon since this
Uh,
has been issues now?
well, there's a possibility with it with the new going out of our new place in Arlington, Texas. So that may come. Uh, it takes certain cameras. It's expensive, so that's part of it. And
Mhm.
really, when we look about it, we did studies on that. How valuable would that be in regards to like cost effectiveness? Because we found that really there's very few goals in the end that are wrong. At the end of the season, we
Mhm.
had 1,500 goals. I think it's right around 1,500 goals this year in MLS, and when three of them were questionable, like for goal line technology. So is it worth the money
The
to invest
expenses.
for 3 goals? Of course, if that goal puts you in the playoffs or moves you next round, it's a very important goal. So now all of a sudden it's worth it. But if it's
Mhm.
second game of the regular season, people tend to forget. That okay, you got 30 more games to score goals in. So that's the issue with it. Sometimes a goal is a little bit more important than another goal.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I noticed that you've been doing, and you've been doing it the last couple of years, is you've been having on your basically the YouTube channel for Pro, you have a video review of the week. And so you go and review and kind of explain to fans. So I kind of want to highlight that because I think this will help a lot of people understand better of what's actually happening and then what decisions are making because you basically take them in live and say these are the cameras they're looking at, there's the conversations. So you do that with MLS, NWSL, and you also do it in Spanish, right?
Yeah, believe it or not, I know I don't look it, but I speak Spanish, so I do it myself. It's all self-produced by Pro. We don't hire somebody to do it. In fact, you're sitting in the studio right now behind me. So it's not some major production. But what happened was in 2018, we realized that there was a lot of confusion, and you get the conspiracy theories, like what's happening behind the black veil. What's the Wizard of Oz doing back there with these change decisions? And so we decided, look, at the best thing to do is just take it out there, explain what the VAR was doing and why they made the decision, right or wrong. And we realized that if you do this, you're going to have to bring the wrong ones out too. It's always easy to bring out the ones that are right and good. Look at us fixing that, work perfectly. But we've had to swallow our pride and say, look, at the VAR did this. We don't want them to do it again because it's wrong. So we brought that out. It's called Inside Video Review and Vara Fondo in Spanish. You can find it on YouTube if you search it. Started back in 2018. We've had probably almost 200 of them, where what we do is usually it comes out Friday or Saturday of the week previous. It doesn't always do every review because some reviews are just so basic that it's no longer we put them in there. But we usually take the 3 or 4 best reviews and we let it go. We play it usually from the foul. You can hear the referees talking on the field, like saying, no, or the hand was tight. You hear all that. You hear the conversation. You hear the VAR going through their reasoning of why, and you actually see what they're looking at the quad. And so sometimes you'll see what the struggle they have to find a good angle. So it's like they'll say, I need something from the other. I need something from the other side. And if we have nothing, we have it. And they'll go, oh, man, it's zoomed in at the wrong location. So you get to hear all of that. And you'll hear what their final decision, like the recommended review. You'll hear the referee at the monitor, why he may or may not go with it. Sometimes you hear the doubt in as they first look at it. And sometimes you hear oh, wow, that's not what I thought I saw on the field. So you hear all that. Right. We put that out there, and I give a short little explanation of why, like in the laws of the game, why is this decision correctly taken? What? So a lot of referees watch it because also it helps them like with their decision making. Like, okay, it's a handball because of these reasons. So we give that, and usually, we try to keep them under 10 minutes every time, so they're a good watch. But you get to hear, and we tell people, you can agree with it or not. This is what happened, though. So right. We have people disagree with it, especially with handball, which is going to be a forever thing. But we said, look, this is what happened. So we're not hiding anything, and we're happy to share it. And I think overall, it's been positive for Pro. First ones in the world to do it. People watch it around the world, believe it or not, and mostly a lot of referees watch it, but also the fans that watch it, and they know what happened. And I think it just takes away the veil of secrecy of the VOR. We're not hiding anything. sometimes the VAR makes a mistake. He says, I recommend a review for a handball. And we're thinking, we don't think it's a handball. And the referee goes, no, I'm sorry, I don't think it's a handball. You get to hear that part, and you can hear the disagreement. And you can realize, you know what? I can see what the VAR was looking at. He sees like this, but I can see what the referee is thinking also. So in the end, we put it in there. Inside video review usually comes out the week after. There's a few days taken for producing it and writing and whatnot. So it always tries to come out before the next round of games. So almost certainly we have it out. It usually depends on how busy my schedule is, how quickly it comes out. So
yeah, I mean, and like you said, ultimately it's the referee making the decision, even though the assistant referee, they're telling him to look at it. That's why they have to go look at the screen, because they have to say, well, wait a second, what about this?
And that's one thing that we do here in the United States and MLS that's not done everywhere in the world. And if you watch, other European leagues or whatever, South America, whatever, they don't always go to the monitor. If especially what they call factual decisions, which are decisions that relate to geography of the field. For example, a penalty kick, did the foul happen inside or outside? I mean, either in or out. It's one or the other. Offside, interfering with the play. It's either offside or not. And if you have a line driven across it, why is the referee going to go to the monitor and look at the line? It's already set. We don't use lines here in MLS for various reasons. And some of it's competitive decision that we don't want to use it because we don't like calling offsides for a toe. So there's all that process gone into the decision making. But we found what happened is that the fans in the stadium sometimes don't catch when a decision's been changed. So we do it on those factual decisions for the fan experience and for the broadcast experience, because we're used to in America, in our sports culture, of seeing a referee go to a screen before they come back and change anything. Think of the NFL, think of tennis, think of hockey, think of NBA. We always see them go to a screen before they change a decision. And so that's something that our fans expect. Because what happened one time in a game in New England, with a long ball, the defender goes up, flicks the ball off his head, goes to another player who scores the goal. Well, the player who flicked the ball had come from an offside position, and it was pretty clear. The VAR goes down. I recommend a review for offside, no goal. The referee goes, okay, makes a signal, beep, 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 puts his hand up, restart. The teams restart. We did it so fast. We did this in under 30 seconds because it was very clear offside that TV broadcast was showing the replays. They didn't realize we had not given the goal. The fans in the stadium were celebrating, didn't see us start the goal. And the scoreboard had 1-0 for about 10 minutes when it was 0-0. So we realized that we have to communicate better with broadcast and stadium. And really, if we pause and have the referee run over to the monitor, everybody sees it. When he comes away, he makes everybody realize, okay, they're restarting. They may not understand why they're restarting. Sometimes offside, they wouldn't have seen it because most fans in the stadium aren't looking to see where that player came from. They just saw he flicked the ball with his head. And the guy who scored was clearly not offside. So they're not understanding that part. And from that game on is we said, okay, we're going to the monitor every time. And sometimes it's cursory. We're going to go there and look at a still frame of a clear offside decision. And so that's what we do now. It's worked for us here. It doesn't take that much longer. We realize it takes about 35 more seconds for the referee to run over to the monitor and see it and come back. But it gives us the benefit of everybody, broadcast and in stadium, understanding what happened. Now with stadium announcements, that may change. If we make announcements, why go to the monitor? We're going to say, hey, the goal is canceled for offside. Everybody understand why we did it. So that's the thing that's going to happen. And we try to make it as less intrusive as possible. So with the announcement, if that means let's not go to the monitor anymore, because everybody understand, then that's probably what we'll do. So these are all the things that are, every year we analyze what's the best for the game and how can we improve it.
Nice. Well, I'll kind of shift gears a little bit. I'm really curious about how you landed your journey there at Pro.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I started in I was refereeing before, like most referees, I started as I was in college. I needed some extra money. There was an indoor place, and amateur games happening. I need some money. I was refereeing. I was playing and refereeing, So, but and then I realized, I kind of like this, and I enjoyed it, moved up the ranks. And so in MLS started in 1996, I was on the first few games that year. And then I stayed with them until 2015 was my last on-field game. In between there, I was FIFA official, went to the World Cup, etc. But then I was kind of thinking, I like soccer. So look, you're in love with the sport. You want to work with it. So I didn't want to retire and, play golf, something silly like that. So I decided, I saw a position there, and they were going to have for the first time an assistant referee manager. So I applied for it. They gave me the job. So I started as a manager of the assistant referees. Did that for 2 years, and that's right when we were starting to test VAR. We started testing VAR in 2015. Most people don't know that. We already were starting to look into doing it. We were having people go to stadiums and time, like how long does it take for a penalty kick once it's given? Just a natural penalty kick given. By the time you get the players in all the positions and what, so because the big worry with VAR at the beginning was how much time it would take, it would interrupt the game, etc. So then in 2016, we started training the officials. We had camps where we brought in cameras and teams in Salt Lake and basically played games with us interrupting the game and going through how do we do it? Like, how do we contact the referee? Where do they go? And all this practice. And then we did live games in the USL prior to MLS. And we were doing offline games with MLS where nobody knew we were there, but we were doing it in the background. So we weren't actually talking to the referee, but we were doing everything like the same thing except for contacting the referee. And we even did some where we have a surrogate referee standing by the sideline of the field with a monitor. And so the VR saying, look, they just gave a penalty kick. We're showing it to you here. And they would go without affecting the game at all. The referee on the field didn't know what we were doing, but we were doing that just to test it. And so then when we started in 2017, we're ready to go. And what happened is in 2017, they didn't think we don't need a VAR manager. It's just part of the game. It's just part of the game. Let's go. We'll just run it. And realized that there was a lot more to it. So in 2017, I transitioned from the AR manager to VR manager because I have a background in television. I worked for Telemundo TV for 20 years as I was refereeing. So I worked in post-production. So I already understood what was going on with the cameras, angles, and how you adjust things on video. So I did that for 20 years with Telemundo and eventually left when I was too much refereeing, basically. Left. For
too
me,
much travel.
Natural transition. I still work in television. Like, for example, this Inside Video Review, I edit them myself. So it's something I've done for a long time. So that, for me, I actually interview with them. I said, look, I would like to work in the VAR space. And they realized it was a good fit. And so we went with that. Then someone else came in to take over the assistant referees. So that's really how I got involved with it and why, I'm still involved with it. We have a big move. The move to Texas is going to be a big move because we have to reset up all the cabling and, it's not just the VAR and AVAR. There's a big bunch of people behind there on the technical side, the hooking up the cables and stuff. And some of that stuff is way over my head when they start talking speeds and 1080p, 1080i. It's 720p. No, it's got to be 1080i. You get lost in all the technology of it, but it's all there and it works well.
That sounds exciting. I'm sure, and it's going to be ready for the start of the MLS season, right?
Yes, it will.
Crossing our fingers.
Right now, we're actually testing connectivity between the stadiums. So part of the process that happened back in 2017 is that every single stadium had to have a offline test that made sure everything worked. And we have to do that now again, going to Dallas with every stadium. So every stadium, all 29 of them, are going to have a game in the game before season starts. So you can imagine that doesn't have to be the first team. So it doesn't have to be, it can be their academy players and like that. But what we do is we send a crew of referees there. We have a crew in Texas, and we'll just fake some reviews to make sure, for example, that the signal's coming out good. The signal's going back to the monitor. They can hear each other on the back. The backup
Mhm.
systems are working. If we lose communication, how do we contact the field? All that stuff has to be checked for all 29 stadiums. And we've already started that in February. We have like 20 stadiums to do where we got to have crews there. So that's the biggest thing that's happening right now behind the scenes. So it's so far they're all working. I can see, like, for example, I can see Red Bull Stadium. I can see Red Bull Stadium from Texas. That's the key part.
Nice. Or from your home.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit a long ways away, and it's cold outside. I don't want to do that now.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought up a good point. Like, what if communications is shut down? What is like the alternate plan? Because maybe internally at the stadium, the fourth referee and the assistant referees and the official can all talk, but from someone else outside,
Yeah,
how do you all contact?
it's happened. It's a little stress situation. We've had some technical problems. I don't know how many thousands of games we've done. We're close over 2,000 games, but we have lost communication a few times. We have a dedicated phone line that's at the fourth officials table, and so every now and then you'll see them on a dedicated phone line that goes directly into the VOR that's being used. So before the game, the VAR will call that number, make sure it's all connected, all working, and if there's anything, they immediately dial up that number. There's somebody sitting at the fourth official desk that's going to pick it up. It's one of our liaisons, and they get the fourth official to come over. So that's happened a couple of times. And then we also, where the monitor is, they have a backup headset in case it's needed. So in other words, the referee's communication not working, they have another one that you can put on and listen directly to it. We had a couple bad situations happen. One time, we had a situation of simulation in the penalty kick. The referee given a penalty kick, and the angle showed no contact. The player had simulated. Called him over to the monitor, and what happened in the heat that we have during the summer, and the monitor had been cooked pretty much, and so we got there, the monitor was wavy and lines and was just fried by the heat of being in the sun, and he couldn't see it. So he stayed with his decision. And unfortunately, because he couldn't see the play to change it. So that has happened, but very, very rarely. I have to say that Hawkeye, who we worked with at the time, they did a really good job of making sure that those backups were working and the monitors were working. And you can imagine some of the conditions. You got the heat. And you saw some of the finals where it's in the snow and cold to make everything work. So very rare, but it has happened. And we have lost communication with the field. Sometimes nobody will ever know because nothing happened during that time, and we were on with the fourth official. Referee couldn't hear, but what happens at that time, the referee on any situation that may require the VAR has to look over to the fourth official and get a thumbs up from him to continue. So it just slows the game down. We don't like when it happens, but you know what? Whenever you have technology, and you probably, I'm sure, doing a podcast, things fail. And it could be as simple as someone forgot to plug something in, or just, I don't know, something happened, some bug showed up.
Right. Yeah, wire got a kink in it and it's not transmitting what it needs to.
And when you think about VAR, there's so many pieces that are connected. The camera truck to the thing, into our system, sent to Atlanta, sent back to the field, and has to go to a monitor and at the same time. So that there's a lot of pieces going there.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Colorado, but I grew up in Argentina. That's why I speak Spanish. My parents were missionaries. And so we didn't live in Buenos Aires, the capital. We lived up north. If you're from Argentina, Santiago del Estero, Tucumán, Salta, all up the upper north in the poor areas of the country. I enjoyed it thoroughly. That's how I learned to play soccer. I did not play on an organized team until I was 14, and I played for a club there. But before that, it was all in the street. If you had a soccer ball in Argentina, you had friends. So I had a ball. I had lots of friends. The ball would come out, and they get mad at you when you had to leave, go home. You can't take the ball with you, but then you would never see that ball again if you didn't take it with you. But no, I played in the streets, and all the time. I fell in love with soccer and Argentine culture too. For that, I enjoyed it very much. And basically, from there, I came back to the United States and went to high school here in college in Minnesota, a place called Bethel University, played there. And unfortunately for me, I wanted to become a professional player, but with many referees, the pathway wasn't there. I came out of university, college, right as NASL was folding. So the soccer landscape in the United States wasn't very good. For a player, I would call my category, my player was maybe not quite pro yet, but I could have played second division or something, and maybe you develop your way up. Sort of like, why do people play in USL 1? They're hoping to make it to MLS by playing and whatnot. Right. That's probably where I would have been. I would have been second, third division team or something, and hoping to get picked up or hoping to improve, but didn't have the opportunities. And refereeing was the best opportunity.
To stay part of it.
We refereed my heroes. I mean, I refereed, Argentina versus Mexico, in San Diego with Messi playing when he was a young kid. Ronaldo, all these players. You got the best seat in the house as a referee. Yeah. And even though you were impartial and you did it, hey, come on, we're soccer fans. We know you're with your fan, the players that you admire, you watch, and you're thinking, man, this. First of all, you think, wow, this guy's bigger than I thought on TV. That's some things that happen. Or sometimes, wow, he's smaller than I thought in TV. Right. But you know what? Most of those players, they're just spent. I've only encountered one or two players that were just jerks off the field as well as on the field. On the field, some of these players are just so professional. This is their job. They don't care. They're working.
Right.
They're serious. And then off the field, they become the most gracious and nice people you've ever met. You end up going up. You end up going up an elevator with somebody. You think, oh crap, this guy's gonna be yelling and screaming at me, gentlemen. So it's a strange situation, but I can understand it. It's your job. They're paid to win. They're paid to play hard, and that's what they do it. But that's what I grew up with. So I mean, now I have my wife and I. The kids are all out. I got 6 grandkids, which which tell you what. If I want to give you some advice, it's more fun being a grandparent than a parent. So it's a lot easier. But no, that's really where that's my soccer background. Is all Argentina, playing there, learning, playing in the streets, and coming here. And I played high school. Played in fact, my parents. I played in Fort Collins High School in Fort Collins, Colorado. I don't know if people know that. Whereas there was no soccer in the United States in my high school when I got here. Mm-hmm. And I almost went out for the football team because I just wanted to play a sport. But my parents, along with a couple of our parents, formed the Fort Collins Soccer Club. They got together and they made the club. So I could play soccer. So that club still exists. It's a huge club in Fort Collins, Colorado, but my parents were part of it because they wanted me to play and I wanted to play soccer. So that's where I went to college and played there. So different landscape.
I'm guessing now you enjoy the VAR stuff more than being the official on the field. Do you like that better?
Yeah, but you know what? All officials will say that there's a feeling you get. To me, the special feeling is when you walk out on the field. If I say I missed one thing after retiring, is the feeling you get when you walk on the field and the crowd roars and you're walking out. First of all, the game hasn't started yet, so no one's criticizing you. You're doing a great job, right? And that feeling, and then the second feeling is when you walk in the locker room after a game and it's gone well. People don't understand that the referees, they're in many mentality like a player. They want to have a good performance. They want to score 3 goals and come in the locker room afterwards. The referees too. I've been in some games where the agony of knowing you made a mistake after a game, and you know that you can't get rid of it. You're going to be criticized, and you're going to go home, and all you have is your sport, is your family. That you missed a penalty kick, and one thing I like about VAR is we give you a chance to not have that agony. The referees will still kick themselves for missing a penalty kick, but if at the end of the day they can say I fixed it and now I can sleep at night, that's a good feeling. So as VAR manager, I like when I can give them that opportunity to fix their error on the field and be able to sleep at night. Now, for pro, we believe strongly in the referee getting the decision right on the first place. We don't want to have to be dependent on VAR. We don't want them. We're not happy with our referees when they have to go to the VAR too often. Okay. But at the same point, we know there's certain decisions that no matter where you are in the field, you won't be able to get without the right camera angle. And that's what we like to offer our referees. And that's to me is what makes me feel good at home. Like I look at a play and say, man, he missed that handball. I should have seen it, but he got it in the end. And so usually the call is like, dang it, I wish I got it live on the game, but thanks for getting it right. And for me, that feeling is great because I remember, because I worked without VAR before, I remember missing a call in Seattle. And it ended up being a goal that decided the game one way or the other. And seeing the video afterwards in the locker room, I go, oh, it didn't look that way. It didn't look that way live. I need to see this slow motion again. And that was just a bad feeling you have. And you don't get rid of it until maybe your next game, or you can move on, So that's what VAR is for. And that's why I'm happy when it works right, Like last year we fixed 132 errors on the field in MLS. Basically our average is about one every 3 games. And that's been the average.
And it's a major decision too. It's not just oh, this is a foul. This is like a goal deciding. This is like a goal deciding or a red card or something that could impact the game.
Yeah. So a VAR could sit there for 89 minutes, basically just watching the game pretty much. And then boom, I got to make a decision that decides who wins or not. It'll help. The referee will make the final decision. We know that, right? But I'm the one that's throwing the referee to go to the monitor. And if I don't tell him, there's a mistake on the field. And like, we don't like when an error is left on the field. And what's nice about VAR is that we correct most of them. So we can't say 100%. Someday I would love to tell you 100%, but I don't know if I'll ever get that. But we're in the 90%, so it's very high. So in MLS, for example, a goal is fairly scored 98.57% of the time. So if you score a goal in MLS, it's almost always going to be valid. It's a fair goal. And when you think about soccer, what is the most valuable thing in the game? It's goals. And when we can say that a goal in MLS is 98.5% accurate, that's good. We're happy with that. Would we like to say 100%? No, because every now and then there's an offside that's too close or a goal line decision that's too hard to decide. But that to us brings fairness and justice to the game.
Yeah. Do you have a moment in your entire career that you're just like a highlight or something that just like you rewind in your head 100 times, like, man, that was really special?
You know what? For referees, there's very few games that we remember because we just remember the friendships you make along the way. But I clearly remember I was on a World Cup game, Mexico versus Honduras, in San Pedro Sula. And, 2 hours before the game when we inspect the field, it's already sold out in full. And that game Honduras ended up beating Mexico for the first time. The atmosphere was just unbelievable. I mean, if you've ever been to San Pedro Sula, the stadium is very compact. There's no track around it or anything like that. It's you're if you're an AR, you reach back, you can probably touch the fans, other than the big fence that's there. So that's certainly a game I always remember that happening. I remember the finals, but I don't remember any specific calls or anything because it was more that the games went well. If you go back to the second MLS Cup, there's a decision on offside, or the 6th one in New England. I remember it clearly was El Pescadito Ruiz scoring for LA Galaxy against New England. It was a close offside decision I had to make. I kept the flag down because I thought he was onside, and I remember the nerves. The game ended a few minutes later, and I was thinking, I hope I'm right. This is the final. This is the thing. And I remember looking up in the stands, and at that time, Joe Macknick, I don't know if you know who he is. He was in charge of the referee. They had on their phone, and he was giving me a thumbs up because he knew exactly what I was thinking. And I tell you that was a good feeling. That was a good feeling to know that that big decision had been right, and that there was a fair winner of the game. But I tell you what, there's a moment there where you're thinking, oh man. And usually nowadays it's my wife calling me up. Yeah, you got it right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think that whole verification thing can be really for the official. Like, I was right on. Even though VAR is checking it, you're like, I saw what I saw. And it was clear. I think that's probably pretty validating for them.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have to edit out what they say. When they hear the words, I recommend a review. That means the VAR seen an error. Sometimes there's some expletives from the field that come out there have to be beeped out because they're human. Oh man, they're thinking no. And then I can tell you there's some great things, and sometimes with expletives that they say when they hear the word check complete because they know they got it right.
Right.
And so then you can hear some really good things like an AR go, yeah, I knew it 100%. Why you took so long anyways? They're all think because that's just for humans, and it's kind of fun the actual reaction. But sometimes for inside video review, you might hear like a dip in the audio. That's because they were speaking from the heart.
That's a nice edit. So, is there a future for VAR that you see evolving in the next couple of years that we haven't seen yet?
It's not going away. I can tell you that right away. It's not going away. For us, semi-automatic offside lines is going to become a standard probably, because now with computers, they're tracking the player, every player's movement, so their limbs, they know where the ball is. We don't have an MLS, but at the World Cup, the ball actually has a chip inside of it. So we say it has a heartbeat. So we say it has a heartbeat. And so we can check to see for sure if the ball actually hits somebody's hand because you'll see a skip, a little bump in the audio. My always question with this is, do we want it?
Right. Do we want the toe to be the offsides?
I mean, Apple's developing the stuff we're talking to them this weekend. Is the stuff with where you can put yourself on the field and see every angle. Will the referee at one point put on, the whatever you want to call it,
head-mounted display?
And then he'll say, no, I'm going to spin myself around and see the play from the other angle and make a decision. Is that going to come? With technology, probably so, with AI and all this stuff. But sometimes I wonder, do we want it? One of the things I love about soccer is that it's free-flowing and changing. There's subjectivity to things. There's gray areas, and that's what after the game at the bar, what do you discuss? You don't discuss the obvious stuff. You talk the gray stuff. And do we want a game that's so clean that it becomes, static? So that's just a question. Like me personally, I don't want offside lines because I don't see offside written for the toe being offside. Offside was written to keep people from hanging around the goal and basically cherry picking. And maybe the law has to be rewritten at some point. This is just me being, my fan. Right. I like to see goals. Right. I don't like to see flags, And so as a fan, do I really want to see a goal where the guy really got no advantage because his his shoulder, his shoulder was slightly ahead of the other shoulder, and they have no real involvement. It made no effect on the goal other than he scores the goal. Would it make any difference for the other player? Is that something we want as fans, as lovers of soccer? And I'm not sure. Yeah. Me personally, I'm there or not. I saw the World Cup. A couple of offsides that were taken away or given. World Cup. When you looked at the line, you even said, does it really? You're looking closely at the line. Really, that's why the goal was taken away. That minuscule centimeters. And then if you want to talk about millimeters, you can talk about the goal of the women's game, the goal line technology for the penalty kick. I was there. I saw it. It's about that much. So
but that decided it.
That's a goal line decision. That's a factual decision. What about cross line? Yeah. That's totally different than a subjective decision about offside, because offside, even though it's factual, there's movement involved, and you still have to score the goal type thing. A ball crossing a line is something we could do anywhere on the field. We could put cameras and tell you exactly when. But at the same point, is that what we really want to do with, for example, offside? Is that as a fan? And people can weigh in. Some people say, hey, you're offside, tough luck. Or do we change? Does the laws of the game change to fit in some leeway? Like, for example, just saying it, how thick are the lines that you put on an offside? If you put the lines a little thicker, now someone's not offside. If you make the line really thin, then they're really slightly offside. So that stuff can be part of the conversation. I'm not the one that's gonna make that decision. I'm the peon. I'm at the bottom of the pile there on that decisions. But that's me as a fan speaking. What I want to see in a game.
Right. Right. Do you think the MLS, NWSL, or even the Pro Next, MLS Pro Next will institute the thing you were talking about with the ball that FIFA's done?
Not within next few years. It doesn't offer that much more than we have right now. It helps with data tracking and knowing certain things. For example, the reason you use it for offside, the exact moment the ball is played. Versus blurry image, that might be because of the speed of the camera. So you would know exactly, and it would immediately go there. Boom. It's been touched. Like you talked about the incident that when we started the podcast, we talked about the player that flicks the ball and it could change an offside decision or not. You will know for sure where that player touched the ball or not. Either there'll be a spike where the ball goes right there, or there'll be no spike. So usually we look for, is there a change in the spin of the ball? That's what the VARs do. Is there a change in the way the ball was spinning when you can see that it touched something? You wouldn't have to do that. It would be automatic. So those are all possibilities. Can it happen? Yeah, sure. I mean, technology goes so fast, and with MLS, we want to be the best. And who's to know who's best? And who's to say that USL next year doesn't start VAR themselves too? So because they're getting slowly, we're finding less expensive options. When we started with MLS, they spent a lot of money to bring it into MLS. It's a lot of money. So there's a big investment. NWSL, I got to give it to them. They, their owners stepped behind VAR, put down the money to get training and get it done and get it in the NWSL. And so we started last year with NWSL. It's coming back this year. It's going to come back better this year because now the people we trained are going to be, obviously more experienced because it's not just so easy to sit in front of a monitor and making decisions. So NWSL, came up with it. I was surprised a bit, that they were willing to do it, but they said, no, we want this in our league. We want to be innovators and leaders in the world. And NWSL did it. So I'll credit to them for doing that. And, we're doing it again this year. So they haven't, they're putting the money forward to do it. USL has been in conversations for, several years but it's the cost. I mean, when you talk about, teams in USL, some are barely surviving. Others are doing better. The level is totally different, but if you have it at one, you have it in all of them to be competitively fair. You can't just have one team have VAR and the other ones don't. So are the stadiums that they're
playing.
And
it's the camera angles too.
Yeah. And for right now, for example, some USL games, you watch them, they're only 4 camera shoots. They're not these big productions. And is it worth it with only 4 cameras to try VAR? Because a lot of times you say, we just don't have an angle to say it's wrong from the on-field decision. Look at USL games, and there's times that, you can tell even with these 4 cameras that the player was offside, or this is a penalty kick, or this is a red card. Certainly happens. So there is value, but when the costs, they've always talked about VAR light. Can you do something like that where it's just set up in the stadium where you plug a few things in and boom, you got something. I don't know that yet. So, but I got to tell you, someone out there is thinking about it and going to do it.
Yeah. We have 1 more minute left, and we call this our stoppage time. Some just quick answer questions.
It's stoppage time.
This can be about personal or just while you're working. Do you have a must-do ritual?
No. Before I used to wear a little ribbon around my sock, and that was it. Just a memory.
All right. Favorite unplugged activity?
I do like playing Call of Duty. I should admit that. I'm terrible at it, but I do like it. It's a stress relief. You're kind of cut off for a little while. So, but
do you have something that's away from technology that you enjoy?
Yeah, I do I'll do some baking and cooking. I like to make bread. So
sourdough bread.
I'll whip up some bread and some spices and whatnot. So I like doing that. It's and I like making desserts. So it's either bread or desserts. So you can see neither one of them are probably healthy for me, but I'll do like making a fun dessert, for a recipe I've never made before, or making fresh bread. Oh, I love fresh bread. Come on. I can't.
Do you make Argentine food?
Yeah, I do, but empanadas are hard to make. They're not that easy to make. But I'll make the bread, some of the bread that I had back then. But for them, Argentina, just bring me the cow and I'll put the steak on there. That's all I need to do for Argentina food. Give me a steak in the grill, and I've got my Argentina food. It's just how they cut the meat. Still different. If you know Argentinian butchers, you got to have them cut the steak a little different than you find in like the restaurants around here.
Yeah. Do you? I didn't know that. That's cool. Do you a go-to snack when you're watching a match?
I like Reasons chocolates. The ones, the caramels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you put them on the table, they're gonna disappear. I have to usually hide them after one or two. Otherwise you're going through the pack. So.
Yeah. Do you like starting a project or finishing one? Like which one is more gratifying?
I think I start so many projects that don't finish that I think finishing feels good. So there's a few projects I've done around the house, in the backyard, etc. That when it's done, it's going, hey, that ended up pretty good. But there's a lot of them back there that started that are mid. That who knows if they're going to finish or not.
Yeah. And you've had a super long season of soccer, especially with everything. I'm sure you get some sort of break around this time. So what recharges you? What do you do to recharge from all this? Because you're going to be starting to back up again.
Yeah, well, a couple of times I told my wife, let's go someplace where nobody can find us. We've done like the booze cruise from Miami to Bahamas, and we didn't even get off the boat because we just want to be away for like 3 days, no one. And then I gotta tell you, like I said before, seeing the grandkids. First of all, the grandkids think I'm the greatest thing in the world. They
do wrong.
And don't do anything wrong. In this situation, people go VAR. You screwed up the last game. The grandkids, they're like, hey, Papa, let's go. Yeah, we want McDonald's. Yeah, we can go. I don't care what your parents say. You want ice cream? Yeah, we can go. I don't care what your parents say. So that part, that part's fun, and it's part of this transition in life that to enjoy that part. And so, really spending time. And I do like to play board games. So if anybody wants to do that, board games and ping pong, I like to play a lot. I do have to say, I have to admit that Armando Villarreal is our best ping pong player, and he beats me every time. I've yet to beat him. But I like playing board games like trekking, and my son has a lot of board games, but that's just a family tradition we've done for years to play card games, board games, etc. So I do that on the weekends a lot. It takes you away from everything. It's a game. It's still competitive, but it's not to do with soccer.
Cool. All right. Last question. If you were a current player in the world right now, what was your play when you were playing in your playing days? Who would you be most like in today's soccer?
Oh, today's soccer. Well, it wouldn't be Messi because it wasn't that good.
But maybe his demeanor and the way he plays and interacts. Maybe
the player I kind of always liked growing up was Gary Lineker from England, who's a striker. I played forward and some midfield, but I always liked that he was always in control. I think he went his whole career without getting a yellow card, if I remember right, something like that. But he was just a player that even under the most stressful situations as a striker, always seemed to be calm. And I couldn't get that because I was always like, panicking on the ball. But it's a player that I always looked up to. I thought this is a great player to be. And then another one's one you would never know, a guy named Daniel Bertoni. Unless you're from Argentina in the 70s and 80s, you wouldn't know who he is. But I just thought I liked how he played with his speed. He was aggressive and fast and it was a great finisher. And I just thought, man, if I could be like that, that's the way I wanted. But for demeanor, it was Gary Lineker because I don't know how he would do it. Even when referees would make mistakes, he would be calm and collected. And I always wanted to be that way because I got to admit, I was a referee's nightmare when I was younger. I would complain and whine about everything because I always thought I was being fouled, and I always thought there were penalty kicks. And of course, I was diving too and exaggerating, and I really hated myself when I became a referee for doing that. I thought, what a pain you've been as a player, and you should have figured it out. But it took me years to mature to get to that point. So that's where I am with that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you channeled those two players in your current work. You got that cool demeanor. You're kind of finishing things with speed and accuracy. I mean, it sounds like you.
Thank you very much.
Those.
It's good.
You're welcome.
There's so many players that I love. but there's some players that in MLS that nobody knows who they are, that were just actually really great people. I mean, I'll name a guy named Mark Jung. Probably no one knows who he is. He played for the Red Bulls, played for a couple other teams. Quiet player, but just a professional. Just the way you'd always wish the players would act. There's a bunch of them out there that that come that it makes why we referee, why we do this, and why we go through the suffering and pain of the pressure worthwhile, because there are people in the game that are just great people to work with, and for me, like, being that close to the game you love is rewarding. It's nice to get paid for it too, but it's really rewarding to be part of this game. And podcasts like this that are fun to do, and people are interested in the game.
Appreciate it. No, this was awesome. Thanks so much for being on. Look forward to hearing some more and watching your videos.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have to upgrade the effects on it and whatnot. So maybe the look.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll look for that.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Charlotte FC podcast. I hope you really enjoyed Greg. I certainly learned a lot about VAR and where it is now and where it's going. Greg provided all that insight into how everything happens. That's just incredible for people to know and understand. And also, if you're interested in just refereeing in general, we also did 2 other episodes. One, episode 211, with Alan Kelly, the senior match officials, and also with Joe Fletcher, who's the chief refereeing officer. And then also episode 229 was with Alec Pruss, talking about the process of training and how they get referees ready to go. So all 3 of these together kind of get a full circle picture of how refereeing is done in the United States and with pro referees and with MLS. So thank you again for listening, and hope you continue to follow us on X and Instagram at CLTFC Podcast. Please share this with a friend, share this with someone else that may benefit from learning and understanding this stuff. And of course, this year we've also added some extra things on our website at the charlottefcpodcast.com website, or cltfcpodcast.com website. Either way is fine. But we've added these transcriptions of these interviews, as well as we're going to be adding match day photos and just other different articles and things this year. So thanks a lot, and we'll look forward to a great year. Until next time.